Hello, everyone, and welcome back for the seventh and final round of Swiss here at the 10K trial at NRG Series Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, for this round, we've got an exciting matchup. We've got Larry Fields' team against Daniel Glonek's team. Both of these teams are hot in top 8 contention. This is going to be a win and in. The winning team from this match is going to go on to top 8 and play those rounds out tonight for a chance at the trophies. So this is an exciting moment for those players. Now, other notable records, we've got team Adam Wasburn-Moses, team Dominic Palacio, team Shea Strausman, team Merrick Krause. These teams have already locked in their seats in the top 8. So as long as nothing crazy happens, we'll be seeing those players again in just a few hours. Hopefully 1 hour. Hopefully this match doesn't take more than 1 hour. And so hopefully we'll see those players again shortly. But for the time being, we've got that Larry Fields versus Daniel Glonek match. These players have been playing hard all day. After seeing last round's draw, we are now ready to head down to the tables where we're going to be seeing the Pioneer matchup. We've got Bant Spirits up against Mono White. I'm excited to throw the mic over to Mason Clark and Devin O'Donnell, bringing us more coverage this weekend.
What is up? We are back in the booth again. We have Dykman on Mono White Devotion. We saw that team draw in the last round. They're not dead for top 8. They're playing and winning in here against the team of Glonek, who is on, it says Absent Aggro, but it's Bant Spirits. We have a little bit of memes in the chat here, Devin. Now, personally, I would never meme, but I respect other people memeing.
Yeah, I used to do it, but ever since I started doing coverage and I realized how frustrating it is to, see Abs and aggro, and then you look at the deck list and it's like 4 Mausoleum Wanderer, 4 Selfless Spirit, 4 this and that, and it's just like, I won't do that anymore. I've vowed to not do that anymore. So just for coverage standpoint. But yeah, this should be a super interesting matchup. We saw Dykman last round playing the Mono White Yorion Devotion deck and up against Bant Spirit. So Dykman does have access to a lot of powerful early removal. As you see, the Portable Hole also has Skyclave Apparition to maybe answer some of, I believe we have the names flip-flopped, I think, because I think Dykman's on the left. But, answer a lot of the threats from the Bant Spirits deck. So we'll have to see if maybe Glonek can set up like a collecting company, maybe a timely spell queller on one of those removal spells, and should be a pretty interesting matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. We saw here right away, Portable Hole answered the 1-drop. That's the kind of things Dykman's going to try and do to make sure that he doesn't get run over in the air by the Bant Spirits deck. It's one of the real strengths of that deck. I'm going to go back to it, though. I think Abzan Aggro maybe is a name and spirit, like maybe I like to believe that it's like, oh, this is the ancestor to Abzan Aggro from Standard here. As we are going to see another Portable Hole answering another one of these threats. And this is like a pretty big part of the Mono White Devotion deck, right, Devin? Because our removal spells are now also making our Nykthos much stronger.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing about these Portable Holes too. And you could even imagine, say, turn 1 Portable Hole, turn 2 Portable Hole. Maybe Dykman follows it up with a Skyclave Apparition. That's 4 Devotion, which lets you cast a 5-drop on turn 4 because you have the 4 Devotion plus your extra land drop. So already getting off to the races here with these Portable Holes. Now, the one thing that's unfortunate about Portable Hole compared to something, say, like a Path to Exile or Prismatic Ending, is because that permanent is on the battlefield. You see the Skyclave Apparition actually taking out the Portable Hole, which gives the creature back to Daniel. And that's kind of a pretty big tempo swing for Daniel here.
Yeah, the little House of Cards moment falling apart there. Skyclave Apparition is a spirit kind of, doesn't really come up in any other format, but it does matter here in Pioneer, especially, when you have things like Collecting Company, you want to be able to kind of have answer spells off your Coco. Skyclave Apparition is a good one here. And suddenly we have a board presence again. And I think Dykman has all lands in hand, just drew a Nykthos. So we do have 1 Triumph, so we can get a redraw, or maybe we can put Yorion in hand, but I think we're just on mono lands.
That is, you are correct. That is a lot of lands. Now, even though Dykman has all lands, still has a couple of options here. Could pick up Yorion, could cycle a land. My guess is you probably just want to cycle a land here because you're probably a little bit, the Yorion's a couple turns away, and also it's not even clear that the Yorion's going to do all that much here. So my instinct is probably to cycle off the land here to try and dig a little bit closer. It looks like Dykman agrees. But yeah, this is, looks like Dykman probably kept 2 Portable Holes, 5 lands, maybe one of which was a cycling land, and just hasn't found any spells yet.
Yeah, and that sometimes this happens, Dykman's deck does have a lot of ways to generate cards and move through cards. So once he finds one thing, it's going to all start turning together a lot better. But we do have to find that one thing. And that's one of the real strength of the Bant Spirit deck, right, Devin, is it doesn't give you that time to do that sort of thing.
Right, yeah, there's already 4 power in play. You could see something like a Supreme Phantom, or I don't know if this list has Empyrean Eagle. Let me just take a quick look here. Yeah, 2 copies of Empyrean Eagle. So, yeah, we have 6 total lords here that we can kind of play to up the pressure a little bit. You see Daniel passing with 3 mana. If you've played against spirits at all in Magic's history, you probably know that that's a spell queller. So, you want to try and avoid playing into it as all possible. But Dykman doesn't really have a choice here because he's just on all lands. Like he only has 1 spell he can even cast. It's not like he can really, maybe not play into it. The only other option is maybe pick up the Yorion, try to deploy that next turn. And the nice thing about Yorion is it does cost 5 mana, so it gets around Spell Queller. So kind of a tough decision here for Steven. My gut would probably pick up the Yorion because it's very obvious. Yeah, I like that play for sure.
Yeah, pick up the Yorion, play the Cave of the Frost Dragon, sort of just blank the Spell Queller, and looks like we do have a Spectral Sailor here, so we didn't get to totally blank all the mana from the Bant Spirits player, but not the scariest board in the world. And like you mentioned, Yorion is just a 4/5, and we have all these lands, and Shackle Guys can tap it down, but it's going to require a lot of spirits to do that. And we just don't have that sort of huge board presence that we need to do that.
Well, if there's a Lord here, which there is, that's all of a sudden, that's likely a 2-turn clock. So, 2-turn clock, and then you also have the Shackle Guys to tap the Yorion. So, this is a really, really bad spot for Dykman. You're taking half of your life total. If you play the Fable, it's going to get quellered. If you play the Yorion, it's likely just going to go, Cody can probably just play a Spirit, use that plus the Phantom, tap the Yorion, attack for lethal. So, yeah, this is a really rough spot for Dykman.
It's really Dykman can use the Yorion to reset the portable hole on the Lord, which could give Dykman a chance to untap as long as we don't see another Lord here from Berglund. But it's a risky play, and it looks like Dykman's maybe considering playing this Karn the Great Creator that we have, maybe to grab a portable hole from our sideboard. Oh no, it looks like we are going to spend all 5 for Yorion, but we're thinking about it.
Yeah, I guess what you can do is you can Yorion, blink the portable hole, give Cody back the Wanderer, and hit the Phantom, so that let's say the Phantom's gone, the Wanderer comes back, those 2 tap the Yorion, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus 1 Spirit would be 7. But I guess you could just end of turn the Spell Queller in that case, and I believe that would still be lethal for Cody here. So yeah. I think no matter what, Dykman's probably dead.
Yeah, because Dykman can play in Flicker, like you mentioned, but we'll have that Mausoleum Wanderer back, and we can flash in the Spell Queller for no value, but use it to tap the Shackle Guys along with the Mausoleum Wanderer to set up that lethal you're talking about if we draw a Spirit off the top. And if we don't, well, Dykman's still at 1, and we have this huge board presence with, mana up to draw a Spectral Sailor. So it will be a really hard position for Dykman no matter what here. But Dykman is, like we mentioned before, a really skilled player, someone who's not going to miss these little lines and making sure, like, hey, I'm in this bad position. What can I do to get out of it? And
yeah, it basically has to just kind of hope that there was a bluff last turn. So, like, obviously Dykman, recognized last turn that there was the possibility of Spell Queller, so he decided to pick up the Yorion. But now he just kind of has to hope that it was a bluff, and maybe that Cody just didn't have the Spell Queller all along, because he's going to be in a bad spot no matter what. And unsurprisingly, there it is.
Yeah, Cody's showing him like, hey, I've got the Spell Queller. Probably going to see a Shackle Guys activation here to tap down the Yorion. You can let the portable hole resolve. It shouldn't matter as long as you do it before. Okay, so we are going to untap first. So
that's step 1 for Dykman.
Yeah, and sometimes this is what it's all about, right? Like, you just have to make them go through it. Still a really good spot for Berglund here. And, even if we activate here and just swing in, we are going to be putting Dykman down to 2. And that is not a lot of life. And we have a card draw activation as well. So we're going to need some big heaters here, but we've been given the chance, and that's what's important.
Yeah, you got to draw a step, and that's all you can really ask for.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, the team of Berglund over here with Spirits, they're all up a game in the other formats, which I'm pretty impressed by, because we saw 4 Cologne versus Mono Red Prison down there in Legacy, and in my head I was like, uh-oh, probably got to say something about that pretty soon. And just game 1, Dark Depths can do it. Oh my goodness.
Would you call this the Caster's Curse, where we watch, no matter what match we watch, the other 2 matches already finished before we finish game 1?
That's just been my commentary experience in the NRG circuit so far. So I would have to agree that it's just the caster experience. But Dykman here is kind of considering what we can do. Drew Elspeth Conqueror's Death somehow does have a target, which is pretty impressive, but probably not enough to actually stabilize the board here. But we mentioned before, taking that extra second just to make sure we're not missing anything.
think it was a
Oh, sure.
Paragon, but yeah, either way, I don't think there was enough. Yeah, got the draw step, but
Mhm.
couldn't do anything with it because there was just not,
Yeah,
too
we're
far
gonna come
behind at
back to
that
the
point.
booth
So
here for a minute while some of the games there is sideboarding. We're gonna jump back down to one of them. This is a great moment, by the way. If you're loving the paper broadcast today, click that follow button and make sure to support the stream. That way we can get more streams like this to you. That way, the people at NRG are like, oh yeah, people like this. We should keep doing this because we all like it. Why wouldn't you just help support it there? And if you have a Twitch Prime, of course, it's free. You might as well spend it on somebody. It could be us, could be anybody. Just support somebody in the community. But yeah, Devin, this is pretty exciting here. We're on the precipice of top 8. If you're on that team of Berglund there with Spirits, all your teammates are up 1. You've got to be feeling good on your winning end.
oh yeah, the entire team's up a game, and the Pioneer match at least didn't really look too super close, but Dykman kind of fluttered out a little bit, drew a bunch of lands, so we'll go ahead and have to see.
Yep, and we're gonna hop back down here into Modern. Looks like we're playing. We're watching Rakdos Scam versus 5-color Creativity, and this is an interesting matchup. The Creativity player 1 game 1. Oh, and 4-color Loam has defeated Mono Red Prison in the time we jumped from the booth and back. So
Oh boy,
the team of Glonek is up a match, and what has to be a tilting a moment for Max Smith, unless I'm not the legacy expert like Anurag and Julian are, but I have to assume that matchup is not that easy. Either way, the pressure is on here as Fields is playing for their team's life. And looks like we are going to start underway here after deciding to keep. And this matchup's a little weird.
Yeah, we have Creativity versus Rakdos Scam. This, as you said, the matchup is kind of weird. Rakdos Scam is, for those of you who maybe haven't seen this before, the scam part of this is you're trying to establish a Grief or a Fury combined with an Undying Malice, a Feign Death, or a Malakir Rebirth to kind of give you a double trigger, let you keep a body and play off of the evoked creature. And specifically, Grief is pretty very impactful in this matchup because the Creativity deck, it kind of needs a lot of resources to be able to set up a turn 4 or turn 5 Creativity. You kind of need a Fable, maybe a Ren and 6 to help hit your land drops, and then also the Creativity. So if you can Grief a couple of those cards away, very, very powerful. Looks like we're going for a Ragavan here instead. And then the Creativity deck is just doesn't have a ton of cheap interaction. Like there are, I have to take a look at the deck list, but yeah, just trying to set up, kind of Ren and 6 on turn 2. Hopefully there's a Lightning Bolt for the Ragavan, which is pretty big.
Yeah, I was going to say the 5-color Creativity decks typically, since they got Leyline Binding, that was the huge difference because they're able to play more cheap interaction. They had a couple bolts like that, and they would really lean on the power of Spell Pierce, which when this deck first came out in the midst of 4-color Uragon was a huge boon for this deck and really sort of helped it dominate. But now, with Leyline Binding, we're actually able to have a good amount of answers to early things. And it's going to be interesting to see here because Larry Fields has 2 Terminates in hand. So it's going to be good at stopping the Creativity, but not good at pressuring the Creativity player to actually go for it, which is kind of the bind, right? We always see from this matchup.
Right, and I actually stand corrected. I went ahead and took a look at the deck list. There's 4 Lightning Bolts, 4 Leyline Bindings, and 3 Spell Pierces. So plenty of 1-mana interactions. So I have been proven wrong here. But yeah, this is Terminate, and Terminate's also an interesting one because that one goes after the Archon. So you always kind of have to think about we see a Spell Pierce on Fable. Oh boy, oh boy, yeah, that's kind of a beating. But with regards to Terminate, it's like, do you go after the if they target the dwarves? Do you go after the dwarves? Do you go after the Archons? But it all kind of depends on the texture of the game and how that plays out. But yeah, Spell Pierce on Fable is kind of
that's
disgusting.
a huge one. You have to be so excited too because you have it all rolled up, right? It's like, oh, if they play Blood Moon, I've got to answer it, and then you see them slam Fable, and you're like, oh yeah, they would have slammed Blood Moon if they could have. Okay, answer this. Let's move on with our day. And pretty big moment there. We do have a Fury in the hand of Fields, but I think that's our last threat for right now. So we're gonna need some pretty good cards at the top. But either way, Glonek here just developing a bunch of mana and playing their own Fable the Mirror Breaker. And it's funny how much this card is disseminated throughout all of Magic, but in this deck, it is one of the best decks it's in probably any format.
Yeah, just want to take a quick second to shout out. We got a couple of Twitch Primes, Rasputin, T3H, and Zelmas. We actually got a level 1 hype train. So thanks again for the support. Really appreciate you being here and hanging out with us in the live commentary. But yeah, this is the last round of Swiss. We're going to see which one of these teams make it to the elimination rounds. And yeah, it's pretty disgusting when you get to trade 1 mana for their Fable and then resolve your own Fable. That's got to feel pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it is super good. And we are going to see a Fury here and then Feign Death the Fury. So we do have a real clock. It's a 2-turn clock positioned here, but we are kind of having to hold up our mana just in case we do see Indomitable Creativity on the Dwarven Mind. But doesn't look like there was a creativity in hand before, unless we just picked up for the turn. But we're going to get to rummage here with the Fable of the Mirror Breaker and really sculpt our hand and kind of play the game we want to play, which is why we're seeing so many of our like the strongest players and strongest decks in all the formats play Fable of the Mirror Breaker, right? It really lets you kind of sculpt the games you want to play.
Well, I look away for 1 second, and there's a Hogak on the battlefield.
Yes. Fury with a counter is huge. Looks like we're going to discard Archon, which could be big game if we have Persist in our hand. Hit the see,
Yeah, taking a look at the deck list, it looks like Daniel did go ahead and decide to eschew Persist, so unfortunately we won't be able to see that. But yeah, definitely don't, especially if you don't have Persist, you don't ever want those Archons in your hand, so that's a good place to put them. And just another reason why Fable is so good in this deck. It's kind of crazy how much Fable does for this deck, but every single chapter is massive. Just being able to like loot away extra Archons, loot away extra lands you get off Ren and 6. Both tokens, the treasure and the 2/2 itself, are very important for getting creativity online. The flipped copy of Fable, or the flipped side of Fable, gets to copy Archons. It's just, this card is just one of the more impactful printings of the past couple of sets, probably the most. Obviously you could look at a card like Ledger Shredder, but yeah, Fable is just a massive boon to this deck.
Yeah, 100% agree. And we are going to see the Fury come in here. It looks like we're going to fetch up probably a Dwarven Mine maybe and get a little chump block action on, trying to save some life here. Unsure where the Fury's going. I assume it's at the Ren 6 just so there is an infinity fetch lands, but we might just be seeing a go face here from Fields. And I totally respect going face too. You got to win the game. And with Bolt in hand, Glynok's not as safe as they think.
Right. Yeah. This is with Bolt in Larry's hand. I mean, this is effectively a 1-turn clock, but looks like we do have the answer with the Leyline binding. So that's kind of tough.
Yeah, binding, getting rid of the Fury, it's very big and very strong, but much like Hogak goes into the binding still. And now Fields is in a little bit of a predicament. Kind of, wants to be able to use mana, but only has 1 red and wants to leave up some way to stop cards like Dwarven Mine from being turning into an Archon. We do have a Terminate and a Bolt. So, if we try to flip the Fable here and target with a creativity, it will not work, but we could still get 1 off if we're able to get something like Dwarven Mine. So an interesting spot for sure. And also Castle Locthwain just really looking like an all-star, like every time I see it. Just hanging out.
Just chilling.
Just big chilling. I had to write another card on my deck list. Don't get to write Swamp 3, Castle Locthwain 1. And that is a shadowy Fable, the Mirror Maker flipped here. I kind of like it.
Oh, the inner sleeve, the smoke inner sleeves. That's what they're called. I'm trying to think of the name of them, but yeah, those are always super interesting when you're playing with the flip lands and fables and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you're like, do you take them out of the double sleeve because it's easier to read? I don't know what you're supposed to do with that, but we see another fable here.
Scholars have been wondering this for years, and so hopefully one day we can come to the answer. But we are going to see another fable, and I believe we ticked up Ren as well, and so looks like we're going to see a lightning bolt here just to answer the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Makes total sense. Just kind of get that out of the board.
Yeah, and you mentioned because Larry being so choked on red, you kind of have to use the bolt there, even if you necessarily don't want to, just so you can. You can't just keep doing nothing every turn. You got to eventually, deploy something here.
And we talked about this, in our last round Pioneer, but sometimes games have choke points, and sometimes it's mana, sometimes it's card. And for Larry here, it's cards. Oh, it's mana, but
that's a good draw step.
Necromentia. So if you haven't seen this card before, you name a card and your opponent loses all copies in their hand, deck, and graveyard. And so Larry could name Archon, could also name Creativity. It looks like we are just going to go for the Archon. And yeah, looks like our hands Bolt, Dwarven's Mine, and another Ren and 6. We got the promo art from the Double Masters. And all the Archon and Creativities are out of the deck. And Larry knows everything that is trying to happen here. A huge draw step.
Yeah, that's massive. I mean, I'm taking a look at the deck list. So there are, obviously, you could get to a Ren and 6 emblem with something like a Lightning Bolt. That's option number 1. Fable of the Mirror Breaker Beatdown, which against a Lightning Bolt Terminate deck, that's probably not going to happen very often. Same with Dwarven Mind Beatdowns. And then looking at the sideboard, there's not really anything with the exception of the 1 Sundering Titan, but I highly doubt that Dan would bring that in against the Rakdos deck. So I'm not going to lie, there's not a lot of win conditions left in Dan's deck at this point.
Yeah, I think we're on the Ren and 6 to the moon train. I could be wrong here, but like you mentioned, it's really hard to even try and commit something like all the Dwarven Mines and go really hard because a single Fury gets drawn and you lose all of it. So you're going to see some amount of it, as we see right here, main phase fetching up a Dwarven Mine. Or sorry, inset fetching up a Dwarven Mine so we can start pressuring for 3 to make the bolts a little easier. But really, if you're Glonek here, you're just trying to get enough damage across where your bolts can finish it off. Because the good part about this deck is it has a lot of red lands. So casting bolt over and over again will not be a problem mana-wise.
Right, and then obviously the Ren is dangerously close to ultimating. So if the Ren does get to ultimate, you can combine that with the Lightning Bolt, and that should, once we get to a Ren ultimate, that's probably more than enough to win the game. Especially with Larry not really having any kind of meaningful pressure here, you're not under the gun at all. So once we get to that ultimate, it's it should be pretty straightforward here for Dan. But I'll have to see this is a big draw step for Larry if he finds an answer. Maybe not necessarily an answer to the Ren and 6, but something like the Lightning Bolt to keep it off of 7 loyalty. We definitely need something here for Larry's side.
100%. And it's worth noting too, we picked up another Fable, the Mirror Breaker, which means, the like Fable copying a Fable is like weirdly live, which puts this incredible squeeze, right? We talked about how mana is kind of the problem for Fields this game. And with that being the case, we have to kill the reflection of the Kiki Jiki so it doesn't make an infinite copy of itself with the other one. Because if you have 2 of them, you can start targeting. It's a little weird. But you also have to stop Ren and 6 from ultimating. So this is a huge draw step for Fields here.
Yeah, I mentioned, what was it, last turn where we talked about as soon as the Necromancer resolved us, like, well, I don't think there's a lot of win conditions left. There was a Ren and 6 in play, and then all of a sudden now there's, the second Fable, the extra Shaman token, the Dwarf token, the Ren upticked. Yeah, I maybe kind of misevaluated that. This is actually, obviously it would look a lot different if Larry had a creature, maybe draws a Fury or something like that. But yeah, this is going to be tough for Larry, even after resolving that Necromancer.
Yeah, and Larry has a Croxic here. And looks like we're just going to discard the extra Ren and 6. Maybe we're going to discard land, take 3. Not quite sure. Look at the players are conversing. You'll see this happen a lot, right? You're winning in. Your team knows they're super far ahead. Let's take the extra 5 seconds and just double check. And honestly, that is the big difference in a lot of times when making a play of Magic. How often, Devin, have you gone over to your friend group and your friend says, oh, I lost because I made a stupid play because I didn't think. They just thought for 2 more seconds they would have won. And we see ultimately decide to discard Fire Ice here, which is totally different than their snap judgment of Ren and 6. And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're going to ultimate Ren and 6 to win.
Yeah, and without the Archons, you could hypothetically, you have to think about if you're Dan at this point, like, how do you realistically lose this game because you are so far ahead? The way you lose this game is maybe Larry has a couple of removal spells to answer the Goblin token, somehow finds an answer to the Ren and 6. Also, the second Ren and 6 is actually not irrelevant because if you immediately snap ultimate the first one, the second one gives you all the land drops, so you don't have to worry wait a turn about, do I want to ultimate? Because you get into that spot a lot where it's like you get a Ren and 7, do I want to ultimate or do I want to wait to get it to 8? That is a question that comes up, so you don't have to worry 100%. About that at this point.
Yeah, and we picked up a Leyline Binding here for the creativity player, and we're going to take up our Ren and 6 up to 7. So we're threatening an ultimate next turn, and we're threatening that reflection of Kiki Jiki, copying the other reflection and making as many as you have mana. With all those treasures, that's going to be a lethal attack for us. So we need something like a Fury here in order to just mow everything down.
Yeah, on top of there's just, being 5 damage in play, and Larry's at 12. So that's ignoring everything else. It's just there's, Larry's effectively in a 3-turn clock, even without anything else.
And we see it here, Fields' team taken down. What's the top 8 for Berglund and company? Wow, what a crazy round. So sick to see. So sick to see all this action. Yeah, we're going to try and get these players to interview with us right now as well in a second here. They're going to pack up their cards and come talk to us. But wow, what an awesome. Got to see them make top 8 here today at the NRG. So exciting. And some really sweet games too.
Oh yeah, that was pretty interesting. The match that we saw, the Pioneer match, the Spirits versus Devotion, or the Mono White Devotion deck, that was, really interesting the way that game played out with the double portable hole. We talked about how Skyclave, your removal spells normally being able to remove the creature from the battlefield, but because it was specifically portable hole, being able to the House of Cards falling down, you mentioned just being able to get those creatures back, and also the that match, the modern match was crazy. Larry resolved his sideboard card, Necromentia, took the win conditions out of Dan's deck, and Dan just kind of shrugged it off and just said, okay, whatever, that's fine. I'll just play with Ren and 6.
The problem with those Necromentia type cards, right? And we see that deck really, already ahead on board and makes it a little easier to overcome. But sometimes you just kind of get rid of all their win conditions and it's not enough. You still just lose, which is a wild thing to think about when you kind of take out the marquee card from a deck. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the power of Ren and 6, and looks like we're gearing the interview up with our winning team. Hopefully, we can get those, get that ready for you soon. But yeah, that was just a showcase of how powerful Ren and 6 is. Just being able to a card that allows you to hit all of your land drops up the curve, which is a very mana hungry deck trying to get to 5 mana to set up creativity for 2, and also it's just a win condition by itself. Given enough time and inevitability, the Ren and 6 is going to win the game. The ultimate combined with the lightning bolt, just a really really powerful card, and showcases why this deck is so strong.
That diversity in game plans is really nice. Looks like the players are about to be ready here in 1 second. But yeah, I'm really excited to see kind of what happened there. I'm curious with the legacy player. I wonder if they just are like a turbo depths deck, and that's why they were like able to beat the Blood Moon Stompy deck. I mean, game 1, obviously, maybe the Stompy deck kept a hand that just didn't have Blood Moon, right? It had Trinisphere, and then, oh, my lands don't really care. But for games 2 and 3, like that matchup has to be challenging. So I'm really interested to see what kind of happened there. We can throw it on down to them here in just 1 second.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of 4-color loam in the past, and every time my opponent, has like the turn, they just lead on Chrome Mox, and you just sit there and you just don't even know what to do at that point. So curious to see what happened in that legacy match.
Sean, Cody, thank you for joining us here in the booth. Congratulations on making top 8 of the NRG today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So first off, I just got to ask, legacy,
yes,
4-color depths versus Mono Red Prison. Me and Devin here, we're just ignorant. Is that a bad matchup? Is that a good matchup? Because you crushed it.
I am not playing 4-color depths.
Oh, okay. The coverage thing said 4-color depths for us. Did you register your deck list as 4-color depths? Are you a little bit of a memer?
That's what it was.
I think our archetypes got messed up when we registered.
Oh, okay. All right.
You can blame Dan, the one that's not on commentary here. He's the one that registered us.
Okay. We've been doing that a long time, so
sounds good. If you're wondering, I was actually playing Oops All Spells, which may answer how I won in about 5 minutes.
That explains a lot.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
That explains a whole lot. Well, hey, still awesome. So obviously that matchup's got to be super easy. So you just kind of crushed and they didn't have Chalice and just won the game.
Yeah, they actually game 2 he actually did play a Chalice on 0, which funnily enough doesn't stop that much of my deck. It stops the Lotus Petals is the biggest one, and off the top of my head the Chrome Mox as well. But I can generally work through a Chalice on 0, and that was really the only hate piece he had. Game 1 I just turned 1 to him before he got to play Magic. So
understandable. Have a nice day.
Exactly.
So
see you next time.
You won game 1. You got Necromentia, right? You lost all of your Archon of Cruelties. How are you feeling when that happened? Because you kind of had a good board presence and everything, but was there a little bit of anxiety about like, oh, can I actually go the distance with just this?
I mean, as the Pioneer person, watching him get Necromentia, I was like, oh, my games are probably going to matter now. But I saw that and got worried, but apparently he got there. I wasn't really watching after that.
I was gonna say I've got a little insight into the head. Daniel, the one that's not here once again, is actually the modern seat. And I leaned over when he got Necromentia and I said, "Can you still win?" And he said, "We're about to find out." So
I like that can do too.
It was actually kind of funny because it almost seemed like once the turn after the Necromentia after Dan had passed, it was just like how was Dan going to lose this game at this point? He had 2 Fables, 2 tokens, and the Ren and 6 on 6.
I think
it was kind of wild.
The only way he loses is to a Fury or 2, maybe like a Fury that comes back from the graveyard to wipe that board.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, Pioneer, let's talk about it real quick, because Bant Spirits is the deck that we hear a lot about. You obviously have kind of done really well today. You've top 8 the event. Is this a deck you play a lot of in Pioneers? Is something you're kind of looking at for like DreamHack Atlantic coming up? What are your kind of thoughts on this deck? Because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, Bant Spirits, that's not Mono Green, that's not Rakdos. You're kind of beating up on those people today. What do you think about that deck?
Yeah, so I mean, coming into this weekend, just thinking of what I wanted to play, I used to be a Modern Spirits player back when it was actually viable in Modern. So I figured that that's going to be both the easiest and the cheapest thing to pick up for the weekend. And it turns out I remembered how to play it pretty well. So
we do love to see it. Yeah, so Spirit player through and through. Did you have a lot of matchups against Mono Green and Rakdos sticks? I think that's what the viewers at home, that's always the scary thing about picking up a deck. It's like, oh, this deck's cool. Maybe it's cheap. Maybe it's good. But can I beat those 2 decks? What were what'd you face against today on your way to top 8?
So I actually didn't go against any Mono Green. I guess the closest thing to that was the
red-green vehicles.
Mhm.
And that one I was able to get through with Shacklegeist. That's done a lot of work for me today. And then for Rakdos, I saw that twice today, and I split the matches with that. So I was just happy that I could win at least one of them, since that's probably one of my worst matchups.
Nice. Well, I have to ask you all an important question. You're going into top 8. Are you winning the whole thing? Are we taking it down? So we're going to talk to you all again here in about 2 hours, 3 hours?
Hope so. That'd be pretty awesome.
That would be really cool. We weren't expecting to get this far today, but
yeah, definitely happy to be here.
Everything that happens past this is
kind of gravy.
Yeah.
Well, in the top 8, we have Abzi and Aggro in the Pioneer seat, 4-color Lobe in the Legacy seat, and then Creativity in the Modern seat. So, some interesting decks,
yep,
right?
Exactly. Go ahead and put that on the screen again for us.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you all so much for coming into the booth and talking to us. It was great to see you. We'll hopefully see more of you later today as we go through our top 8 in the matches, or here in the booth with us. But go enjoy your time between rounds in top 8. And once again, congratulations.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So exciting whenever you top 8 a big event like this, right, Devin? You just get so like a lot of rush over, you get a lot of excitement. Like you just mentioned, like you go and you play with your friends, maybe you're like, maybe we'll get our money back. Who knows? There's a lot of really good players, but so excited to have that come here. And you know what the coolest part is, Devin, is we have more events coming up. So let's take a minute and talk about all that stuff coming for the NRG circuit for the remainder of the year, because there are a lot of really cool and exciting events coming up here. We have our NRG series in Chicago. We have a Saturday. It's a Pioneer 10K trial. This is our first Pioneer 10K trial. Really exciting. We have Sunday, a Modern 5K trial, which is really cool. That's November 26th and 27th. That is after the RC. So you're going to get all the good RC tech. Net deck Mason Clark, the winner, and then go play this event and have a good time. So it's going to be a great one there. So you definitely want to go to that event. It's going to be a blast. Can't wait to play it. Then we're going to also have our NRG Series 20K weekend. This is the Showdown. So Saturday, Modern in Louisville, Kentucky, December 10th and 11th, 15,000 Modern Showdown. Now you might be wondering, what's a Showdown? That is one, if you win, you go straight to NRG Champs. That is our end of the year big tournament that all the players and all the points are coming on to. So you want to go play that event. You are still alive to play Champs, even if you don't have a deep run going right now. Sunday, we're going to have a 5K Pioneer trial. Really exciting. Louisville is an awesome town. So much great food. You're definitely going to go out and play that event. And then let's take a minute here and just look at the leaderboard, because I want to see these names in orange and kind of see which players have already made it and kind of notice what's going on for the remainder of the play of the year for the NRG Champs that the Showdown event does get you. So if you look here at the season 3, the at-year leaderboard, we see, Jesse Robkin, Joseph Bernal, Piper Powell, all those players locked. If they're orange, they're in our NRG Champs player event at the end of the year. That is our kind of culmination event where everything exciting happens. And that is what a lot of these players like Zodi Riedemann, Zach Allen have been traveling and grinding for all year. There are going to be 3 at-large bids, which are going to end after our event in Kentucky. And so this is big time for all those players. We see players like Will Kruger, Harrison Fang, Adam Wasburn, who's in our top 8 of this event. Those players are trying to get a lot of points to make it to Champs, because Champs is the thing that matters for a lot of these players. It is the exclusive event for NRG, and winning that event is a lot of money, prize, adulation, and honestly, it's just really cool to win one of those elite tournaments, right, Devin? Like you play all year. You grind with all these people. Like, look at the people in this event: Piper Powell, Moto Crusher, Andrew Ellenbogen, Pro Tour competitor, Tour champion, even. Just so many amazing players, and getting the chance to play against them and kind of battle it out and win that event is so cool. We saw Ivan win that event last year, already qualified, but it's still picking a good kind of race at the leaderboard here, and it's going to be exciting to see how everything shakes out this weekend, because those NRG points matter so much.
Yeah, and if you look at that leaderboard, there is a bunch of names on there that if I sat down to play against, I would not be very happy. So there's a lot of good players on that event, and definitely some people to watch out for. And the end of the year event's going to be amazing. I cannot wait to see what they have in store for us. It's going to be.
You can't make the NRG Champs without being a killer. You don't just like luck into it, right? You have to be consistently good for a whole season or win a Showdown event, where the Showdown events are our biggest events outside of Champs, and no one comes slacking to Showdown. No one comes in there and says, "Oh, I'm playing my Goblin Tribal deck today in every format." No, this is the killer event. So these are super big there. I think that is going to do it for us for this round. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back. Oh, sure. Yeah, it is going to be a little bit longer because of top 8. We need to do photos, deck checks, all that sort of thing. But You know what that means? It's plenty of time to get your DoorDash, your Uber, get your food, get here, get back, get excited. Devin and I are going to take you for the rest of the way to the top 8, all in through the finals, all today. We're doing all the finals today. I know if you watch NRG coverage in the past, we do the semifinals and the finals in the morning the next day. Not today. I came in, I was like, no, sir, we're doing it all today. I want to see it all tonight. So we're going to crown a champion tonight. It's going to be exciting. So don't miss it. We'll see y'all here soon for the rest of the top 8.